Electrocast.
Cars say a lot about who we are.
It represents freedom for a lot of people.
This season on Drive, I'm going to talk to all sorts of different people.
I looked at car names.
Yes.
And
yes.
I found all the car names that have science or astronomically
it's
inspired.
Crazy.
It's huge.
It is. Yes, I happen to be CEO of Ford Motor Company. For me, it's all about cars, movement, and our mutual passion for things that get us around. This is Drive, and I'm Jim Farley.
This episode is brought to you by Paramount Plus. Ewan McGregor stars as Count Alexander Rostov in A Gentleman in Moscow, the new limited series based on the best-selling novel. Stream it on March 29th with the Paramount Plus with Showtime plan. Visit ParamountPlus.com to try it free.
Hold on to your butts.
We are changing the course of history as we see it. That is what Western demands.
Now, this affects Iris. Iris, where are you?
What you feel only matters to you. I do not entertain hypotheticals. The world as it is vexing enough.
Iris, I have a tip for you.
Don't take drugs!
Or whatever movies with Wesley and Iris.
What up? And welcome to Or Whatever Movies. I'm your co-host Iris, and I'm here with my older brother,
The Grabber.
And this week we are discussing a newish movie from 2021 as part of our Halloween series. So spooky, The Black Phone.
2021?
According to IMDb, 2021.
So my understanding is this movie was going to be released theatrically in February. And then they did test audience screenings and it went so well, like shockingly well. They're like, whoa guys, we might have a summer movie on our hands. So they released it in June wide of 2022, and I didn't make note of it or hear anything about it or even see a trailer, but there was a gigantic poster, like 6 feet tall and like 12 feet wide in the theater that I go to, of just Ethan Hawke's face with the mask on and glasses for some reason.
Glasses on top of the mask?
I think it's still there. The Black Phone, and I walked past it every time I went to the theater, which is often. And so
you were intrigued?
I was like, look, we need new content for our Halloween releases 2022, and The Black Phone was the first movie that came to my mind.
Why does it sound like you're backpedaling and justifying a little bit?
I don't know.
Because maybe it wasn't quite the summer blockbuster that some people might have thought it would be?
I'm just saying that I went into this movie completely blind. I knew Ethan Hawke was in it. I knew he wore a weird mask and that it was called The Black Phone.
Do we even get to see Ethan Hawke's full face?
Yeah, he's a part-time magician. And he had some kind of like face paint on, but he had his full face. And also he takes the mask off him right before he covers his face.
Takes the mask off
him.
Yeah,
Finney pulls the mask off him, which like strips him of his power, and he grabs his face as though he's been harmed.
Like his mask is his power,
yeah.
Or his mask is his shield.
Or Bane or something.
But the mask, or Vader?
Yeah.
But the mask has 2 parts, and he's never doubly demasked.
No, but he has multiple masks. They change, and some of them are segmented.
But 100%, we see 100% of Ethan Hawke's whole face?
Yes. I mean, one of them is a medium shot or maybe even kind of a far away shot. And then when he takes off his mask, briefly we see his full face before he covers it in shade.
I'm belaboring this question because isn't Ethan Hawke a little bit lost behind the mask?
Sure. In an Edward Norton Kingdom of Heaven kind of way, in a Leonardo DiCaprio Man in the Iron Mask kind of way, sure.
In a Colin Farrell in The Penguin in the latest Batman movie kind of a way.
It's interesting because Ethan Hawke says that he doesn't like playing bad guys. He, and I quote, doesn't enjoy bringing that evil into his life. And he believes that when you play a truly bad guy, he likes playing flawed or complicated characters. But when you play outright evil, you tend to show the audiences, he believes, the evil inside yourself. Ethan Hawke's kind of a dirty hippie, so I can see where that comes from, but maybe he kind of enjoyed the relative pseudo-anonymity. I'm not sure that Gen X, no. Definitely Gen X knows he's like the Gen X poster boy, but I don't think Gen Z walks down the street and is like, oh, you're from the Black Phone, you're Ethan Hawke. I don't think this is the one, and I think he likes that.
Okay. So why did he take the role for the Black Phone? Was this like a Jason Blum favor?
Yeah, not only that, but the director that he likes working with, who directed him in Sinister. And I didn't know it before I watched it, but I do very much like Scott Derrickson's The Exorcism of Emily Rose. And so when I found that, I was like, okay, cool. I'll watch this movie, sure. And I like Ethan Hawke.
Okay.
As weird as his roles have been lately, The Northman.
Right, he was the king in The Northman. Which was scarier, the Black Phone or The Northman?
Scarier? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe The Northman in a way. I was at least gripped a little bit more by the imagery.
In The Northman. You know what was scarier than the Black Phone?
The Viking with braces in The Northman.
No, almost falling down my stairs.
Just now?
So after I watched the day or so after I watched the Black Phone, I was preparing for this review and like looking at random stuff on my phone as I was mounting my spiral staircase.
Yes.
And about 5 steps up, I lost my balance and fell backwards and just grabbed the rope banister at like the last second to avoid completely breaking my body.
So it paid off, that rope banister, which didn't exist before. Because you know how you walk into a house? Remember when the cops walked into the basement of the house across the street unknowingly? Like it was a misdirect. And they took one look at the basement floor and they're like, this is where he hides the bodies. This is where he buries the bodies. You walk into your
the
house.
6 mounds.
Yeah. And you're like, well, that's a death staircase.
The death spiral?
Yep.
We just added another death staircase too below the house.
So you're just going to keep falling for all eternity? You take a spill from the top floor and then you wake up in the basement? Or your ghost wakes up in the basement?
I seriously would have broken my arm. But instead, I just grabbed the rope and kind of swung and like skinned my arm on the center pole thing and then fell.
No one was around to see it, right? You would have bled out on your own.
It was awful. No, the girls had just gone down to sleep and then they all like came bursting out of their bedrooms and they were like, "Are you okay, Mommy?" I like screamed and everything.
Was it like a triumphant Tarzan / Indiana Jones swing?
No, I was so embarrassed about it because I thought about it afterward, and it was a full-on like mom panic scream, like no.
So you're just like, no, it's okay. I saw a spider.
No, I was just like, no, I almost fell, but this is just a reminder of why we're always careful on the stairs, right? We never play on the stairs.
Oh, man. Good job. As a mom turning into a lesson, way to go.
It was terrifying. And the Black Phone, not so much.
Not so much.
Creepy, atmospheric-y.
Man, you know what was terrifying? You're big on opening scenes, man. Little League. That's what's terrifying. Extended Little League segment and Stranger Things style bike riding.
All nostalgic like?
Yeah.
And idyllic seeming. What other Little League turns into that? Quiet Place 2.
Quiet Place 2, yes. There's some Little League stuff in Mike Flanagan's Dr. Sleep with that horrible screaming kid.
I must have blacked this out.
You blacked it out as a mom. So the opening title sequence was pretty good. It was sort of nostalgic and revealed the wildness of being a kid in the 70s and the inherent danger and stuff. But what really bugged me right off the bat for that first shot is all those baseballs were CG, and distractingly so. Did you note this?
No.
Oh,
why?
Every pitch was a fake baseball. The one he lobbed over the pitcher's head when he connected, it was a fake baseball over the fence. And I was like, what is this? Set a bad tone, man.
I did notice that the second pitch was like a too perfect strike.
It was whack. And so we're trying to get clues or whatever and figure out what this movie is, because there's a real value, particularly for horror movies, when there's the scare factor and the uncertainty of the unknown, that we don't know what's happening. And I'm like, okay, what's this movie going to be about? Baseball so far. And you take one look at Jeremy Davies as the dad and you're like, he is 100% a black van abductor dude. And he wasn't. He was just a Stephen King level whack job. Like where all the parents are whack jobs?
That's a great, like Stephen King, It Follows level bad parenting.
And you know why, right?
Why?
The Black Phone, based on a short story by Joe Hill, none other than the offspring of Stephen King.
Oh, his name's Joe Hill?
I don't know if it's trying to disassociate from his father and his fame or whatever, but that's the name he goes by, and he's an author. And as much as it's separated and he is not his father, man, was this a Stephen King feeling film. It was just like there's like dead MacGuffins all over the place, and if you need to figure it out, a dead person's going to communicate with you and tell you about it and stuff.
There's also kind of a laziness and like an aggressiveness. We always use this expression on rails, but I don't really know what it means. It knows what it is, and it's not ashamed at being kind of lazy, and it just goes for it.
You telling me?
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. If you know where this train is headed, and to this kind of movie, it doesn't. Just on rails is just it's nonstop, and it has a direction that doesn't deviate at all from. I think it just kind of just barrels through without really much space to pause or breathe. And I think that this movie, it wasn't like relentless or anything, because at times I was kind of thoroughly bored. I was like, okay, here's another phone call. It's dead exposition or whatever. And I was trying to piece it together, and I was like, I don't know that there's significance to any of this. It's just like we have to make a connection, and then ultimately he's going to create in his mind, or the dead kids are going to help him to create like a murder Rube Goldberg that he can use against the grabber to escape in the end.
No, all of those tips were like their own dead ends. The first one was dig a hole and get out the other side.
Yeah, to clarify, he said, I dug a hole but didn't have time. Where's the hole? Other kid, I pulled a wire out from the baseboard there by the floor and the wall. Where? He didn't pull a wire out. Finney did it. Finney's the one who tore up the tile and started the hole.
That's true. And also each of those tips were dead ends. He gets to the freezer, but he can't get out.
Yeah.
He digs the hole, but nothing comes of it. He uses the wire to open the window.
Yeah, he tried to pull the bars off the window, which he did, by the way, successfully. Ethan Hawke as the grabber is the worst abductor I've ever seen. It was sheer luck that kid didn't escape 6 times. He's like, look what you did to my arm with your really sharp Apollo booster rocket flashlight sharp thing. You better hang on to that in case you need that. I'm not going to take that away. Here's your breakfast with a glass bottle that I'm just going to leave all over the place. Hope you don't stab me with it. Here's a phone cord, and I hope you don't choke me with that wire as I come through the door one day. And so when it came time to, when the kid was like, fill the phone with dirt, heavy, fatal dirt, he was like, okay, not use the heavy ceramic lid, the porcelain lid of the toilet tank, not use the...
Like all room style?
The metal bars from the window, all the cords and stuff, none of that. No broken bottles, no murder Apollo flashlight, nothing.
It's more poetic if you beat him down with the phone.
And that's my concern. My concern is that the phone is there. It's like the biggest MacGuffin that ever was. And the black phone was just kind of conveniently putting stuff together, while all the time it's like, here's a loose end, here's a loose end. And you're like, what is happening? And then all the loose ends come together, and they're like, it's profound, right? And you're like, no. It was random and spacing out the method of his escape so they can put together this communal escape plan for Finney because he's special. Just kind of falls short. I'm afraid that the people who love this movie are like, you know what else? This is my second favorite horror movie. You know what my favorite one is? Donnie Darko. That was deep, bruh.
Donnie Darko's kind of deep, bruh.
Is it though? Is it really? Or is it rando?
I actually don't think that the black phone was attempting to be deep. I think it was attempting to be clever. And you can't really explain how Finney gets the code other than through hearing dead people.
Yeah, and the supernatural thing is a convenience. The idea that he was hearing from all these kids or whatever, Coraline style, that were helping to affect his escape. It was a little bit Silence of the Lambsy. It was a little bit It was a little bit Stranger Things. This supernatural bent, it's just convenient. It's like the scary version of X-Men powers.
It was a little bit Sixth Sense that both the kids are like, they hear dead people.
Right.
And like the dad's all torn because he, like, his whole family, like, he lost his wife because she was driven mad by dead people, so he decides to beat his children. Isn't it really hard to recover from a scene after having beat your children? Like, do you ever trust him when he's like, I love you?
No.
You're like, no,
worse than the idea that you can justify your kids by whipping them with your belt is when he's like, no ice on that bottom. You have to learn from your mistakes or whatever. It's like, man, that's sadism.
Did he really call it a bottom?
Yeah, no ice on that bottom.
I think that was the most graphic violence that we got in all of the dead phone, the black phone, because when you say that the grabber is like is bad and lazy and like unobservant, like the grabber's also not violent at all. Like, he's all talk and no molestation.
Well, yeah, he gets hella killed by a kid. And it's no wonder. I don't even think, after growing up with that dad, I don't think Finney is going to need counseling after murdering his abductor. Like, you'd think he'd be traumatized. And you'd think his biggest problem is confidence. And Gwen is like ultra violent and beating that kid and swearing at him and stuff.
Yeah, all the younger sisters always have to be plucky, but they also all like naturally are because they grow up with older brothers.
Yep, true story, man. But not that he was plucky. Did Gwen grow up plucky just because she had an older brother? Because he wasn't very tough, as opposed to myself. I was extremely tough and resilient, which is where you got your pluckiness from.
I don't know about that. I think maybe, I mean, you have to throw down, but like you're more like an eyeball gouger than like a confident like fist fighter.
I'm also a hair puller. How dare you?
But Finney won't stand up. Finney has no confidence when it comes to the bullies at school, but then suddenly he never cries or is afraid of the grabber.
Yeah.
When he's abducted by the grabber. Actually, he does cry like once at the very end. But he spends like a week with the grabber without crying or getting scared pretty much at all.
Well, yeah, that's because he hung out with Robin, and Robin is what carried him through. And that kid got tough, because you got to get tough if you have a name like Robin, or you're going to get your ass beat.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Life is hard, but finding a really great podcast makes the days go by so much easier. Hi, my name is Blue Telusma. I'm a writer, an emotional intelligence coach, and the host of Humanize with Blue Telusma, a podcast where we believe that when you humanize everyone in the room, a great conversation is almost guaranteed. Join us every week here on Electricast as me and my guest co-hosts unpack big topics and interview even bigger personalities with a sense of humor and a dash of mischief. If you're looking for a new best friend in your head, we've got you covered. Electricast.
And that was my favorite part of the Black Phone. Robin was Octavio from our street. And Robin was the little Mexican dude who, no matter what, any scrap or any confrontation, he fights for God and family, and he will mess you up. I firmly believe that if you threw back in the day in high school, if you threw Octavio in the ring with Mike Tyson, he'd lose, but he would keep getting up, and Mike would back down and be like, I don't want to do this anymore. Because Robin was hella scrappy. And the scariest part is the idea that if the grabber can best Robin, then Finney doesn't stand a chance.
Right. Therein lies the horror of the Black Phone.
Right? I mean, he was so tough and scrappy and could take down that dude that was infinitely larger than him. And I thought, man, that's real. I also didn't quite understand why everybody who was abducted was someone that Finn knew. Maybe not intimately. He's like, I remember you scared me once. But still, he knew everybody. And I wonder if this was all to piece together this kind of communal, like, let's get Finney out of here at the end because he's going to be the one to carry on our memory.
Yeah, not only did he know everybody, but the filmmakers went to great pains to make sure that we knew that he knew everybody by giving us that flashback in the liquor store.
Lots of them, yeah. That was the kid that he had the most tenuous connection with, right?
Right, which is why they had to, reinforce that he was a formidable kid, but he still got taken out by the grabber.
Yep, the tagline for the Black Phone is don't talk to strangers. And that's kind of all Finney did. As much as he knew those kids, he didn't really know them. He just like played baseball with them and got scared by them. All he did was talk to strangers.
And then talk to them on the phone.
Yeah, who helped him out the whole time.
Maybe there was just like some nostalgia for when we used to talk on phones to friends.
Oh, definitely
which
that.
We don't do anymore. Now we just text.
Yeah, the director talked about the movie that Finney was watching was a scene from The Tingler. And the director said that was like the moment that made me love and want to make horror movies. It scared the bejesus out of me. The hand coming out of the bathtub. So he's like, I thought I'd put that in the movie. It's all about putting on screen the things that scared him the most. Because I think he knew somebody that got abducted or something.
That's awful. Yeah, when I told Brian the premise of The Black Phone, he's like, how dare Wesley suggest you watch that? You know you can't watch those kind of movies, right? Like the moment I talk about child abduction or abuse, he didn't even want to watch The Lost Daughter because he was afraid it was about child abduction.
See, I watched this one by myself, and I have to vet these movies, scary movies, before Kelly watches them. Because I made her watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and she still hasn't forgiven me for that. It's been over a year. That, by the way, was the mark that you can pick up on to determine when this movie was set. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is in theater, and that means 1974.
Oh, you mean in case you missed the lower third?
Was there one? Because the title was kind of obscure, too. It was like, da-da-da-na-na-na, the Black Phone, lower right hand, lower third. And I didn't see the year. So that makes sense, but I did my own digging, as it were. Get it? Digging? That doesn't really correlate, but they did some digging in this movie.
I guess.
And Gwen did psychic digging, and there was actual digging, and the grabber dug graves.
They were like moundy graves. Like, why do you put the extra mound right on top? Like, is it supposed to sink in?
Yeah, it settles over time. Very Silence of the Lambs-y, where they did the weird thing where they go to save him and he's not actually in that house. I think at that point the grabber was already dead, but you break into the house and you're like, he's right here, and they go in and they're like, he's not here, the house is empty, and you're like, what? And that's the exact same thing that Silence of the Lambs did.
I was definitely worried that Finney got pulled into a time warp where like the past and the present merge, but really he was already dead, and that's why he could hear dead people.
See, it could have been.
I went deep.
It might as well have been, and then he just like saves his sister from beyond the grave or something.
Yeah, basically.
She like has the vision and like busts into the house trying to save him, and he's already dead, but like grabs the grabber as the grabber's trying to grab Gwen.
It might have been a more interesting story. Let's talk a little bit more about Octavio. He was a really nice guy.
Yeah, he was a great guy. I'm saying that because he was a great guy, when I got in trouble and looked for 2 years solid like I was going to get my ass beat, I would just cling to Octavio. I would run to him and walk next to him because wasn't nobody messing with me if I was walking next to Octavio.
Aw, which makes it a really appropriate parallel with Robin, who was also kind of a nice dude.
Right?
Looking out for Finney and like standing up against the bullies for Finney.
Yep. Unfortunately, it came to a sad end.
And then was Octavio like, so can you come over after school and we can do some math homework?
No, not at all. Octavio had his own things going on or whatever. And so what I would do is like walk home with him. And as you know, he's like, 3 or 4 houses down from mom and dad. And then once he went into his house, I'd play it cool and be like, all right, man, see you later. He'd go into his house and I would like run as fast as I could to mom and dad's house.
Aww.
Yeah, being a kid is terrible. It was terrible when I did it. And this would have been, in the late 80s, and 1974, I imagine would have been horrible.
Yeah, but what did those kids have against Finney?
Nothing. Bullies in the 70s and 80s don't need reasons. If they're smaller than you and you can make yourself bigger by picking on someone who is smaller, you do, mercilessly. It's a good thing, because he was a cute kid and all. It's a good thing he wasn't chunky or didn't have glasses or anything like that, because man.
Then he'd really be in for it.
If you have glasses and you're bullied, the first thing they do is take off the glasses, put them on, and be like, dude, you're blind, and then throw them on the ground and step on them.
Awful. So why does the grabber use balloons?
That's his calling card or whatever. Like the people of Gotham look up and they're like, the black balloons are in the sky. Another child has gone astray. He's like a Batman villain.
And so the balloons are supposed to obscure and disorient the child while he pushes them into his van.
I guess so. This must have been a different time along with It. I think It technically took place, the Stephen King book took place in the 50s, where people were still into clowns. And in fact, in Joe Hill's story, the grabber was a clown. And for the movie, they made him a magician. And I have to think that in a post-It world, the Andy Muschietti It, the movies, the most recent movies, no kids trust clowns anymore. No, and viewers, I don't know, clown was maybe too on the nose. Get it? No, that was pretty weak. But still,
walk.
They definitely changed it from clown to magician. And I guess magicians have balloons and clowns have balloons. I don't know. Is there anybody been going to Party City and filling up the murder balloons? No, he must have a tank. Who's been purchasing and refilling helium tanks? And that's how they track him down?
Who drives a humongous black van that's always skidding around the city?
Metallica fans.
And then what was the whole deal with the brother?
What brother?
The brother that is like a armchair detective and like finally zeroes in on the grabber as being his brother.
Max?
Who
Yeah.
I guess lives below him, or?
Yeah, Max was just another misdirect. He was the true crime aficionado, kind of crack the case, like police don't believe him anyway kind of dude. We were just like meant to think, oh, Max maybe will help solve the case. And we go whoosh through his floor and there's Finney down there. I'm
like
saying
he's literally under his nose.
It just exactly, and it just leads me again to the idea that the grabber is the worst grabber ever in the history of abductions.
But he was crafty enough to like be the grabber with his brother and have the grabber holding area in this basement that I guess the brother never knew existed.
He was cunning enough to last until the end of the movie. But it's a house of cards.
Meaning if you pull one out, they all collapse.
Yeah. Well, no, I meant like Kevin Spacey, who is another house of cards grabber of young boys.
Ew.
Man.
Oh.
See how I did that?
Wow. No. Yes. But no.
I honestly felt like for the majority of this movie, I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. And it looks right. It looks, he's scary, and I like Ethan Hawke very much. And it had the whole creepy basement vibe and the abductor van and all the stuff and the little montages of the missing child posters. But it was all aesthetic and empty aesthetic. I was like, when are you going to grab me, grabber movie?
Oh, they're so bad.
Yep. I mean,
yeah, I can see that. It had all of the kind of constituent parts, but it's not a movie that is more than the sum of its parts kind of a thing.
He's like, I'm going to leave the door open. Leave this kid with all the weapons and then go to sleep.
Well, that's Finney being a very naughty boy, or not a naughty boy. Finney is supposed to fall into his trap because the grabber has some kind of code where he can't beat on or molest children if they're not naughty. And because Finney doesn't come out of the basement, then he can't beat him.
I vaguely remember that. But also when Finney does come out of the basement, I mean, I get it. You go to the back door and you have the combination in your head, but he had the courage to stand in front of the grabber for 30 seconds. If you have the courage to do that, you have the courage to stick him in the neck with your Apollo flashlight. And if not, you're in the kitchen. He's got knives and junk. You grab a weapon and then go for the combo lock.
At the very least, you arm yourself before you go into the figuring out the lock.
And blah, blah, blah. Hindsight is 20/20. But I was that kid. Almost got abducted myself. First thing you do is grab a weapon, and then you stab with impunity.
Finney wasn't a murderer, but it's true that he could have at least maimed or wounded the grabber before trying to get to the lock.
Killed him
at the end in self-defense.
Yeah, with his Robin Ariana courage, he choked him to death, and he knew the second the neck snapped that he was good and dead, like he had done it before, and he got up and walked away. See, what the kids did is some of them had their necks broken, and they communicated to him. When you hear the crunch and you feel the body go slack, that's when you know your enemy is bested.
When were you almost abducted?
A long time ago, I was 2 buildings away from Mom and Dad's, the one with the red brick and the little entryway thing. As a little kid, I was probably no more than 8, maybe 7. Black van pulls into the driveway all purposefully, comes to a screeching halt. The door slides open. A guy steps out of the passenger seat and like rushes towards me with his hands outstretched. But he was in my hood, and in my hood, I know the ins and outs of every bush and every secret passageway. So I rolled backwards off of the bricks into the bushes and ran through the bushes to the little side walkway, jumped down and ran away. And I kept running because I thought I was in trouble or something. And it didn't dawn on me that I almost got abducted until many, many years later.
Ew.
Yep.
He rushed at you with his arms outstretched?
Yeah. He was coming to grab me. And in my 7-year-old brain, I was like, adult trying to grab me. I'm in trouble. And I ran away.
Don't you play it cool and be like, hey, kid, you want some candy?
No. For all he knew, he had me in a corner. But we played in those bushes. The front area was basically a giant planter, and I just ran behind all the trees and jumped down into the walkway.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that. So is this whole movie kind of a cheat?
I felt like it was fairly pedestrian, fairly straightforward, and not altogether engaging. And, I kind of knew what was going to happen. And so maybe the tensest moment of the whole thing was him trying to climb the window and grab that latch or whatever he was trying to do. And the music is all stirring. And you're like, oh, my God, is he going to do it? And then he fell down on the thing. And I liked Octavio, and that was kind of it.
I really thought he was going to make it out of the window.
Right?
I'm not sure why he gave up on that.
Why did he give up on that? I have no idea. He climbs into the back of the freezer, and they're like, we have a freezer. We've got to put something in there. Well, what do you put in the freezer? Steaks. And they're like, okay, here's a fake-looking steak that's not wrapped in anything. He had like a pile of T-bones in the freezer, which helped out later because the T-bones, see what it did? It distracted the dog. It all comes together.
It's a little bit all of a cheat, and that's why it surprises me that it's based on Joe Hill's source material, because it feels like a horror film by the numbers. You do, and I mean that literally by the numbers, because you talk about how there's the Apple algorithm. Well, I think there's the Blumhouse paint by numbers.
Yep.
The magic equation where they're like, okay, we can shoot this for $18 million in one room, and then we can make $20 million on the opening weekend, and then we can make $100 million worldwide.
Man,
actually, no, they made $157 million worldwide, and you think, actually, this movie makes a ton of sense.
Jason Blum is the hustler for low-budget horror movies in making them seem highbrow. We know that he can do Dread because I was personally hella thrilled by the Invisible Man, which was like a floaty knife and frames full of nothing. And that was incredible. I didn't feel any of that for The Black Phone, I'm sorry to say.
Unfortunately. And so your official rating is?
It was whatever, dude. I don't know. It was fine. It almost made me mad at some times, but I like Ethan Hawke. I thought the kids were good enough for this 70s/80s kind of feel where little kids riding around on their bikes and stuff and getting abducted.
I think The Black Phone was trying to get at some horror that we've all experienced for the last 2 years with wearing masks and the monsters that it makes us in our hearts or something like that. But like my analogy falls apart, thus does The Black Phone.
81%, dude, Rotten Tomatoes. We're missing something here.
Something about it worked enough for it to make the programming list for Halloween 2022 here on Or Whatever Movies. So there you have it. You got a whatever from Wes and a boring from Iris. That's our discussion on The Black Phone. Check out our other Halloween releases at orwhatevermovies.com or wherever you get podcasts. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting us on Patreon. Thank you for following us on social media at orwhatevermovies. And thank you for reaching out to us at orwhatevermovies@gmail.com, 818-835-0473. And we'll see you next time.
Introducing the Deep Leadership Podcast. Leadership is a people business. That's the philosophy of your podcast host, John Rennie. As a former submarine officer who spent 22 years leading businesses in corporate America before starting his own manufacturing business, he knows that leadership matters. Deep Leadership is real-world, actionable leadership advice from John and his expert guests. Become a leader worth following. Subscribe today.
Electricast. Welcome, explorers of the human experience. This is Let's Talk Soul, and I'm your host, Claudia Monticelli. We're not afraid of the great mysteries of existence here. Soul versus consciousness, we're on it. Spirituality versus science, we've got that covered too. Join us in navigating these profound topics with wisdom, curiosity, and a dash of audacity. Whether you're a spiritual veteran or just starting your journey, Let's Talk Soul is your passport to the unknown. Let's Talk Soul, diving into the depths of the human spirit. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.
Electricast.